Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We are going to zoom in and focus in on a very important, interesting topic, and that is the role of the divine feminine, the female side, the male sensitive side, what we call the feminine, the yin to the yang, the sort of softer, nurturing, selfless side of love and humanity versus kind of the yang, aggressive, confrontational, abusive, power hungry sort of energy that we see in life. And really the fact that women oftentimes embody this nurturing for the very sheer fact that they are childbearing and they are hardwired to bear the child and to be nurturing and to be a little bit closer and to have more of an emotional repertoire to her outlook on life, to her values, to her natural mothering abilities. You know, we hear about the Mother Teresa, the Mary Magdalene, the Madonna, and this is all coming from the maternal loving space. And oftentimes it is this maternal nurturing side, which oftentimes is so sensitive, and we even see this sort of maternal side in men as well, the nurturing side, the caregiving side, when we talk about a soft spot for somebody in a male, which is usually supposed to be manly, tough, not have any sort of feelings, just, if you hurt yourself, just rub it with dirt and, brush yourself off and keep going and just endure it and don't say anything. That's sort of the male template. And I think a lot of that is changing in life today because we just see a huge proliferation of, liberalism and sensitivity to the whole spectrum in a global economy and what various cultures, have and bring to into light and how we can be interdependent. But we're really focusing in here on, the nurturing, the maternal side, the one that it was, will endure at the expense of her children. She will endure pain at the expense of her children. She always wants to give, to the children and make sure that they have a good life so that they can carry the torch, so that they can leave a legacy. And whether it's, in a selfish way where, a lot of people do have kids, especially in other cultures, they feel that, children are there so you can take care of you in your old age. So there's kind of a selfish reason for having kids and then, it's based on conditions. The love, isn't given freely. It's given with the idea that you're going to pay me back someday. I'll give you a college education so you can earn money and take care of me. Or, there's this selfish tinge to, certain childbearing in certain countries. But the divine feminine, that sort of softer side, the nurturing side, the eternal love that never goes out. It's like the eternal flame. It's kind of like it's been described as a bellows. In other words, that object that fans like a fireplace. In other words, it can just keep going. It just keeps giving. And oftentimes the divine feminine has the desire to continue to give and love unconditionally, which no matter what happens, there's still the love present. And oftentimes it is this strain which causes one to endure the narcissistic abuse, to be offset and imbalanced by the selfish, which means to give even though it hurts, to over-obligate oneself even though it's not right, to overcome one's limitations or really, violate one's boundaries in order to be there for this person or to keep that life, to keep that eternal flame going for that person. But oftentimes there's a feeling of it's snuffing out for somebody, where basically, it's not beneficial. It's not positive. It's, one is becoming riddled with disharmony and riddled with dysfunction because of this nurturing side, because of this, caregiving side, this all-loving side, which will love even though it hurts, will give even though we've given too much. So, it's very important to realize this element in your life and the ability of women then to, in this, also to be inhibited from taking risks. And taking risks for life, or really sort of, declaring one's boundaries and taking the risk of On the yang side, or the more energetic side of setting boundaries, of being an enforcing, basically confrontational, or what a lot of people call carefrontation, which means I'm putting an end to this because I care, and I'm doing this out of love. So the love and the positivity is still there, but oftentimes it's the man who's going to take risks and be reckless, and oftentimes women they're not able to kind of put their foot down and have that tough love, or say, I'm going to protect myself now, rather than just my children. The whole idea that my children are more important than me. Sometimes that does, that is how your life is meant to be. Basically, you give birth to a child who's so wonderful, who's a physician, who you brought into the world, and you feel this narcissistic attachment to. What I'm referring to is really when you are afraid to take risks for yourself. In other words, to take yourself on a vacation, or say, it's time for me to live now. It's time for me to make sure that I have some certainty and trust and belief in myself now, not just belief in my kids, but belief in myself. The same belief and trust that I have for them, I'm now going to have for myself as an independent, autonomous human being. And this is a very important energy shift to take, because it ceases the attachment. It becomes more independent and defined. And oftentimes the divine feminine needs to, in that soft light, bring that back to the self, bring that back to herself, or, the sensitive male. In other words, to stop opening up the floodgates, but begin to close them off a little bit, and begin to give more of that to yourself, and sort of embracing and love of oneself. A lot of people say, oh, that sounds so cheesy, corny, whatever. Don't tell me to love myself. What I'm encouraging you to do is realize maybe there are some risks in your life, and there are some risks that you have not taken in your life that you need to now take for self-care. In other words, get on that routine, get on that daily habit of your recovery date, or your affirmations, or the heal lifestyle. Begin to pursue and follow up on your interests, and make them, integrate them, incorporate them more in your life, rather than always looking outside of yourself for who can I take care of, who can I fix. Bringing that back within, and realizing that oftentimes you need to bring that boundary back, and begin to take risks now for yourself, much like you would expect a man to take, if he were going to go out and hunt down tonight's dinner. A lot of women take this the passive role of being nurturing and caregiving, and having that sensitive, loving side, but then they feel used. They feel like I'm the role only of a mother, that I'm not recognized and acknowledged for more of a person of who I am, and I want to change that. So if you have encountered that, begin to ask yourself, what risks can I take? What interests can I follow up with that are now about me, which are very positive in nature, which I've always wanted to indulge in, but I've always stopped myself before, because I've always been the caregiver. I've always been the sensitive female. And begin to ask yourself these questions, and begin to see, what areas do I feel guilty about pursuing, but I know that are in my best interest, but I have really shut down for myself. Is it travel? Is it exercising? Is it eating better? Is it, learning to modify certain lifestyles about yourself? Do you need to downsize? Do you need to, redirect some of your time from being all about the family to pulling it into yourself? What areas have I kind of had an amnesia about that I need to now prepare for me in the future of my life, so that I'm kind of like looking ahead for me now, and beginning to get into more of that happiness, that fulfilledness, where I'm not having that same role or the same heaviness of burden, or not really burden, but responsibility and accountability to others. How can I now shift that to myself, where then, instead of it feeling, responsibility or accountability, how can I bring that back to myself, where I've maybe forgotten about some things I need to attune to and do for myself that I've wanted to shut out for so long, but now how can I open that up and become more responsible and accountable to that part of me, so I can really begin to live. And a lot of people say, well, that sounds common sense. But a lot of people have difficulty with making that adjustment and that transition in their life. It's always about other people rather than about you. And oftentimes the divine feminine, that nurturer, that caregiver, that the role that I always need to, fix people. I need to nurture people. I need to be the person that people depend on. I need to be that resource. If you can now let go of that role, oftentimes, which is very difficult because it's so habitual, it's so automatic, to feeling that way, to kind of slowly bringing it over into redirecting, focuses for yourself, your future, other interests, things that you want to develop in yourself, but that you have been inhibited or afraid of or resistive of. Begin to follow that path of resistance. Begin to ramp up. Begin to kind of, go into that area where maybe you've had some resistance, and see if you can kind of work, a little bit against the grain of the that side of you, which has always been that nurturer. See if you can kind of shut down that a little bit and say, okay, now what is it time for me to be a little bit more objective and redirect that energy towards pursuing things that I need to do to become accountable to myself. And see, as you do that, see if you can then invite people into your life from that space versus being the constant caregiver. Because if you are able to expand that, you won't feel so resentful. You won't feel so angry. You won't feel so much like the low guy on the totem pole. You'll feel that actually you've been able to finish that chapter, so to speak, and kind of begin to go against the grain which you've been resistive of. See if you can find that area of resistance in your life that you've been procrastinating. You've been inhibiting yourself. You've been stifling yourself. All of you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or maybe even 20 things which you've been resistive of. I know I need to. I know I should. I know I would love to, but if I only had to do this, for some people it's job searching. For some people it's cleaning their house. It's getting rid of junk. It's leading a healthier lifestyle. It's beginning to take on a part-time job. It's beginning to take on a part-time workshop. Maybe it's going to church. Maybe it's going to synagogue. Maybe it's going to a retreat. Maybe it's going to a cathedral. Maybe it's having a spiritual journey. Maybe it's planning a trip. Maybe it's planning a holy journey where you're going to sacred sites or sacred energy spots of the world, or you're going to wonderful cathedrals or Taj Mahal, or the great works of art in Italy or Europe, or even if it's just studying these things and kind of opening your mind to some of these richer areas. See if you can go against the grain and become a little bit more expansive on that part of yourself, and see if you can bring that divine feminine with you, but begin to make it a little bit stronger, a little bit more objective, and really sort of solidify that so it doesn't become so meek, but that incorporates a little bit more of the yang in the divine masculine. Some call it the spirit of Jesus Christ, or the great spirit, whatever it is you want to call that. See if you can get into that and begin to take action on that part of your life, and just let it carry you. Let it carry you like a riverbed. Let it carry you like a north wind. Let it carry you like kind of a beam of light, where it's trying to direct you and move you in that direction. See if you can allow that to bring you into a new area of your life where you have resisted. Furthermore, you have had this void. And please leave some comments down below of where that has guided you. I'd be very interested and curious and very humbled to hear. It's peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.